You're listening to the Plane Talking UK podcast, the UK-based podcast written by a passenger for anyone. And here are your hosts, Carlos Stebbings, Matt Smith and Neville Bounds.
Well, hello and a very good evening to you. And it's Neville Bounds here, and it's episode 258 of the Plane Talking UK podcast. And joining me this week, well, obviously we have a man down by the sounds of things.
We do.
Carlos is not around tonight.
No.
Due to some operational difficulty. He has contracted the dreaded man flu, and
I know.
But,
and there it is. Look, there it is. The lonely microphone, all on its own, just there. Sorry, that looks really weird. My arm appears to have... This is very weird. His arms appeared out of no... Anyway, so I'm not going to do that. I don't like it. Anyway.
Yeah, well, actually, Carlos was in the chat room earlier, but he's told us, again, he's not feeling at all well, so he's gone back to bed. So the poor chaps, we've been giving him a bit of stick this evening, but in fact, he's not very well. So I think that he's in the best place there, don't you?
Yes, absolutely. I think so. So, yes, so you're in charge tonight, Nev.
I know, that's very worrying, isn't it?
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
And sorry we're a bit late starting. We had
Yes.
one of those sort of evenings where we started in plenty of time to prepare everything, and we had a bit of internet fiddling and router weirdness going on, didn't we?
Indeed, yes. So I'm going to be looking at firmwares and things later on, but we are here and we are ready to go. And it's safe to say that, as I say, even our guest this evening has had a couple of technical issues, I think, as well. It's fair to say.
Indeed. Well, just before we introduce our guest, Armando as well. Are you there, sir?
Yes. Hi, guys. Happy Friday night. Happy to be back yet again.
Excellent. Yeah, thanks very much indeed. And good to see you back. Looking forward to some military news later on. That'll be great. And we've also got a very special guest on the show today. And you've seen him before, and also his partner in crime. But very pleased to welcome back onto the show Matt from the A320 Podcast. Hello, Matt.
Hi, guys. Thanks very much for having us. Not sure special guest is fitting, but yeah, great to be here and looking forward to a great evening.
Yeah, great stuff. So we're going to be talking to you a bit later on, Matt, about the sorts of things you've been up to and what have you. And we had the pleasure of the company of your partner in crime.
I don't know if pleasure is the right word.
Yes, he's listening in. He's driving at the moment. He's on a long 6-hour journey. So if you're listening, Andy, I hope it's going well.
Yeah, safe driving, please, matey.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, he said he might be in the chat room at some point as well.
Yes.
So I can't imagine the inappropriate comments will be coming from him.
I could say we haven't started that late. If he's on a 6-hour drive, we haven't started late enough for that.
That's true. Well, we had a very good day yesterday. So it was Matt Smith, myself, Graham Haley, and Andy from the A320 Podcast. We were all down at the Broadcast Video Expo at Docklands yesterday, which was a very good event. Lots of tech, lots of stuff we can't afford.
Of course, yeah.
But we still enjoyed looking at it.
But to be fair, we both left with a few ideas, didn't we, of how to sort of improve. That's what these things are all about, isn't it? It's the various bits of kit that I want to get my hands on anyway at some point. Carlos, get your checkbook out.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, it's good stuff to see you down there, and I had a nice bit of lunch with the guys, and. Then Andy turned up at about 4-ish.
So went downhill from there, really, didn't it? Yeah.
a light ale after that, didn't we?
Yeah, good time. Yes. Well, because I was on the train. You see, I was in a very unusual situation because I wasn't driving anywhere, and I had a taxi picking me up from the train station. The mum, obviously, and it was So I had 3 pints of cider. I was quite squiffy by the time I got to the train.
Oh my word! That's a lot by your standards.
It is, absolutely. Yes.
Yes. So let us have a look then. So I think it's time to look at the commercial news segment. So if we are ready, Matt?
Yes, we certainly are. Yeah.
Good. Excellent. Well, let's go then. Well, starting off on the flightglobal.com website, and it says that the US National Transportation Safety Board has released video and photographs showing the debris field left by Atlas Air Flight 3591 that crashed southeast of Houston, killing 3 people on the 23rd of February. In the NTSB's video, which was released on the 25th of February, it shows a wide swathe of wreckage strewn about what appears to be marshland and shallow water. The debris looks to consist mostly of small pieces of the Boeing 767-300ER freighter, though some larger pieces, including sections of the aircraft fuselage, are visible in the video. Photographs show NTSB investigators surveying the site using drones, and pictures also show NTSB staff working from airboats using locator equipment in an effort to pick up beacons from the aircraft's flight data and cockpit voice recorders. The NTSB has not provided an investigation update since the 24th of February, when NTSB Chair Robert Sumwelt said his team recovered security video showing the aircraft diving towards the ground in a steep nose-down attitude. The NTSB will eventually release that video, he said. The NTSB's top priority is to recover the black boxes. And the 737-300 aircraft, registration November 1217 Alpha, crashed into Trinity Bay about 26 nautical miles southeast of Houston's George Bush Intercontinental Airport. And the aircraft was operating a flight from Miami to Houston, but the pilots did not issue a distress call. And Atlas Air parent Atlas Air Worldwide Holdings has confirmed 3 people on board the aircraft have died, unfortunately. So a bit of a mystery. Not too much speculation in the press, I've noticed, just for a change. And I think it's almost impossible to speculate what's happened here. What do you think, Matt?
I mean, it's a bit of a mess, isn't it? There's no two ways about it. There's, I thought, sometimes when you say, it's a large sort of spray of debris, but actually the video really does show quite. So we were playing that out while you were reading the story, Nev. And I mean, the debris field is quite vast, isn't it? I mean, it really did scatter itself over a large area. I mean, does it surmise anything as to actually what happened?
So,
I think it's difficult to say, isn't it? What do you think, Armando?
Yeah. Well, first of all, before we even talk about it, thoughts to the Atlas Air family. I know I have 3 close friends that work for Atlas Air, so they're not the biggest airline. So it really, when something like this happens, it really affects the entire airline. And also, not mentioned in the news is the 3rd person on board was a Mesa Airlines captain. We just talked about Mesa Airlines last episode. So he was just heading to work from Miami to Houston. So he was in the jump seat when the aircraft had this incident. So in addition to Atlas, our thoughts go out to the Mesa Airlines family.
Well, and thoughts out to everybody involved in, either involved in or dealing with this incident, because it isn't. It's an awful thing, isn't it? It's not something that we want to get used to, I suppose, is it? I mean, the other thing I would say, it does sort of show how, these events are very rare, aren't they? I mean, you think how many are actually in the air at the time, whether it be cargo or passengers. I mean, I suppose you could. We just need to know what happened, don't we? I think that's the...
Yeah, absolutely. It is a rare event, and despite whether it's a commercial airline, a cargo carrier, it's going to be a long investigation. The terrain or the area where the aircraft went down is not actually the easiest area to access because it's too shallow for large boats. It's sort of varies between a foot and 5 feet of water, and it's incredibly muddy. It's just sort of the swamps of South Texas there. So I have seen a few speculations here and there, like Neb was saying. There's not a lot in the media about it, but it's just certainly way too early to say anything about the causes.
Indeed.
Yeah, and these investigations are very lengthy, and sometimes they come out with an interim report, but sometimes they wait until they've actually got all of the facts and all the details. And I've noticed, and Neil Lamborn mentioned it in the chat room just now, actually. He says, I wonder if the press are less interested because it's a cargo flight. Now, I think there's a bit to be said for that.
Oh, because it's not involving passengers, perhaps. Yeah.
Well, obviously, 3 people have lost their lives. But,
yeah, absolutely.
It almost feels as though it's not sensational enough for some of the press, and it was quite a long while actually before some of the mainstream media picked it up.
Picking it up.
Yeah,
indeed. I must admit, my only being aware of it was through our network of I think both Matt and Armando, I think you both more or less pushed it at the same time, and or Andy anyway. But it was just one of those. It's, as you say, you're sort of surprised really, given how excitable the media tends to get whenever it involves any kind of aviation and an incident of any nature. I mean, you see posts and squawks and tweets. There's obviously somebody in the newsroom just watching Flight Radar 24, basically, yeah, as you say, you sort of.
Have you got any thoughts on this, Matt? I'm not asking you to speculate at all, but any initial thoughts here?
Well, yeah, cargo is always not really interesting to the news, is it? The media can't evoke any fear in anyone from a cargo going down because there's no passengers involved. So I think it's quite common that if there's a cargo incident or crash, it never often makes the news. It's normally only in our own circles. I think it made the news a lot more in America. But yeah, I don't think the UK or Europe media were that bothered, were they?
Yeah. I mean, as you say, but right. People have still lost their lives, haven't they? So it shouldn't really make any difference.
No.
Yeah. Anyway, perhaps we should move on.
Yes. And of course, the second story is for you, Matt, and it's a Ryanair story.
Just for a change, yes. And this is on a website. I don't know. One of these days, I'm going to sit down with Carlos and just find out where he gets his news stories from, because this is in ttgmedia.com. Anyway, the headline is Ryanair wins flight compensation court battle following summer strike disruption. So Ryanair was not duty-bound to compensate passengers affected by the internal strike action, which disrupted the budget carrier's schedule last summer, her court has ruled. Swords District Council in Dublin has ruled no EU 261 compensation was due to customers whose flights were delayed or cancelled due to the industrial action, as the strikes were beyond the airline's control. Is that really? Anyway, Ryanair said that it was fully compliant with EU 261 and reaccommodated or refunded all customers affected by the disruption. The airline added that it assisted passengers where necessary with accommodation, meals and rerouting. Ryanair Chief Marketing Executive Officer Kenny Jacobs said, "We welcome this ruling confirming no compensation is payable to customers when strike delay/cancellation is beyond the airline's control. If these strikes by a tiny minority of Ryanair crew were within Ryanair's control, there would be no strikes and no delays or cancellations." Jacobs added the ruling mirrored decisions made in Spain. Now, how do we feel about that one then, ladies and gents?
Well, there's some precedents to be set here as well, isn't it, I suppose? But what about the airline that you fly for, Matt? What would there be a similar situation there, do you think, if this happened?
Well, any business is going to try and avoid paying.
Well, of course they are.
I mean, I'm a bit. There's two sides to this, isn't there? I think EU 261's got a lot of faults. There's situations where you can pay 29 euros for a flight and then get 250 euros compensation, and it's things like that made like Primera go bust and things like that. So I think there's a lot of negatives to the actual compensation scheme. Is this Ryanair out of Ryanair's control? I think it could be argued either way, couldn't it? They didn't control the strike, but they caused the strike in the first place, didn't they?
Well,
So,
yeah. I mean, this is it. I mean, it is their employees, if you like, disagreeing with their methods, for want of a better word. So,
yeah.
Perhaps if work and pay conditions and everything were more suitable, they wouldn't be on strike. So, does that mean that it's beyond Ryanair's control? No, is the short answer.
And they sort of chose to accept strike action by not agreeing at whatever meetings they had or anything, didn't they? So they knew that if they didn't negotiate with the staff, that it would cause strikes. So I don't know. It like you say, Nev, it's a difficult one with the precedent being set, isn't it? Because if it was taken the other way, then it would be that crew could just strike, and the airline would be more likely to have to cave in to the union. So I don't know. It's not an easy one, is it?
Does anybody know off the top of their head? I mean, okay, let's put the model of low cost airlines to one side. Say let's go with a legacy carrier like BA. I mean, strike action has taken place obviously with BA before. Did they pay out on EU 261 as a result?
Yeah, I don't know, actually. I don't know.
No, nor do I. I think it very much depends on the set of circumstances and what have you. It's probably difficult to have a general ruling. Obviously, EU 261 is there for most cases, and I think a lot of airlines might choose to challenge that in certain cases as well, because obviously the payouts are substantial. On the other hand, of course, BA's fares, generally speaking, are higher than Ryanair's, so maybe the
I must admit,
the difference isn't quite right.
I didn't realise that there was I sort of assumed, because I have to confess, I mean, I've been lucky. I've never been in a situation where I've needed to invoke EU 261 for any of the flights that I've ever done. But it does seem rather unfair to expect. I suppose the compensation is for out of pocket expenses, not just the flight. I guess is that the why the payouts are bigger than for a 30 quid flight.
They have to do that on top of EU 261, so they still have to provide the accommodation and the alternative transport.
Right.
The 261 is purely just I think it was set up in good faith, but I think it needs to maybe be proportional to what you paid for your ticket, because you can't have compensation 10 times what you paid, because like I say, that was one of the main factors for Primera going bust, is that they were often delayed and they were ending up paying 10 times what they earned on the flight in EU 261. So, I mean, the other argue is don't be late, but...
Yeah, although to be fair, there are situations where it isn't actually the airline's fault as to the reason why the flight is delayed. I mean, it could be, we mentioned the word strike action, but I mean some flights, presumably, if you've got the French air traffic controllers are rather enjoy a strike. I think it's fair to
they
say
wouldn't
that.
have to pay under that. So it's only if it's the airline's fault. So if it's outside the airline's control, then they don't have to pay it.
Oh, I see. Right. Okay. Yeah. So,
which is what Ryanair were arguing here, is that the strike action was outside of their control, so they don't have to pay it.
Ah. Okay. See, every day's a school day. You learn something new every day.
Yeah. Definitely right. So, well, moving on to the next story, which I will take because it was my story anyway, and it just happens to be a BA one.
Of course it is. Yes,
I have to talk about it. It's on Flight Global, and it says that British Airways is ordering up to 42 Boeing 777-9s to modernise the UK flag carrier's long-haul fleet. 18 aircraft are firm orders, complemented by another 24 as options, and the twin jets will be fitted with 325 seats in a 4-class configuration. BA parent IAG has disclosed the decision. It says that the 777-9s will be used to replace 14 Boeing 747-400s, as well as 4 777-200s over the course of 2022 to 2025. All of the 777-9s will be powered by General Electric GE9X engines, and the agreement includes a comprehensive support package, says IAG. IAG's chief executive, Willie Walsh, says the 777-9 is the ideal replacement for the 747. And I think this is just another case of the appetite for fewer engines, and obviously the reliability that they get with the ETOPS configuration these days, because of the fuel efficiency of 2 engines being better than 4, but also the increased technical advances of it as well. So it's interesting to see that although the 747s are going to be phased out, I think it's 2024 this year, they're actually replacing them not with 380s, as we were talking about on last week's show, but with these new series of Dash 9 777s. So what do you think, Armando? This is a overall theme going on here, isn't there, I think?
Yeah, absolutely. I was looking up the specifications for the 777-9, and once you start adding up the increased efficiency, between the engines, the new wings, it's similar. I guess I was reading it's similar to the 787 wing, just with less sweep, same composite materials, and I think absolutely once you start adding up all those cost savings for that aircraft, it's an ideal replacement for the 74.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I didn't realize it was that big, 400 people.
Yeah, it's a pretty big stretch, isn't it? So yeah, interesting stuff. So well, you're going to take the next story for us, Armando, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is from Thrillist.com, and I think some of us saw this on YouTube or some of the other medias, but. An airline sues a passenger for tossing coins in a plane engine for good luck. Flying, while extremely safe, can be a scary experience. Some people simply can't wrap their minds around a giant metal tube traveling through the sky at high speeds. That's where personal rituals like carrying comforting objects or taking deep breaths, or I think we've talked about emotional support animals. But there are plenty of harmless ways to soothe your flight anxiety. Tossing coins into the engine, however, is not one of them. One frightened flyer learned the hard way, according to a report from The Independent. Lucky Air is now suing this passenger for gumming up the works with change ahead of a flight from Anqing to Kunming, China on the 17th of February. Officials became aware of the issue after they discovered a couple of yuan coins on the tarmac near the airplane. The passenger claims he did it to bring good luck to himself and his fellow passengers, including his wife and child, in a separate report. What he got was quite the opposite. Coin tossing, which I didn't know this, is a common Chinese good luck ritual that's also popular in other parts of the world. People typically toss coins in fountains, however, not plane engines.
No.
Yeah, it goes on to talk about obviously the damage that a coin could cause in an aircraft engine, and it caused more than $20,000 in damages to the aircraft. And I don't know that it was running. It can't possibly have been running if they were boarding, but yeah, it's amazing.
I mean, it's a very sweet gesture, essentially, that has backfired horribly. I think it's, when I was in Rome with Owen, we went to the Trevi Fountain and we threw in, the mandatory euro coin. I mean, that's what you do, and you then make a wish and off you go. But I don't know. I mean, part of me is a little bit concerned that the person didn't think that there could be any ramifications from throwing a metal object into a turbine engine.
Well, I'd love to hear Matt's take on this, flying with all kinds of different passengers. And we love what we do, but we kind of forget that a lot of people are flying for the first time ever at the age of 76.
Oh,
yeah, definitely. You can be at the end of your week, 4 flights every day, 5 days. You're on the last one. You've done 20 flights that week, and you do get, I suppose you get a bit blasé about what you're doing compared to. My favourite thing about this story is the irony of the name of the airline. Lucky.
Yeah, right.
Yes. Well spotted. Yes, I didn't get that. Yes.
You couldn't make it up, could you?
No, you couldn't.
You didn't really need to toss a coin in with that name, did you?
No, absolutely. The clue ought to be already there. You should have all the luck you need there already. Yeah.
I think it's easy for many of us to get annoyed, especially flying long haul. You get on a BA flight or something, you're going to be sitting next to somebody for 9 hours, and you realize that maybe their routine is not the same as your routine, and the pillows are all over the place, and their electronics are all over the place, and then you sort of realize, well, this really may be the person's first flight ever, especially long haul or something like that. So.
Yeah. Yes.
You still think that most people would assume that throwing a coin into an engine is a bad idea, whether you don't have to be an engineer for that, do you?
Well, you'd hope not. You'd hope not. You'd sort of hope that it was, sort of. Again, it sort of seems like common sense would. But then I suppose it's not a custom or a ritual that we're perhaps overly familiar with here. So perhaps we're being unfairly, derogatory about said incident. But there we go.
They can throw them into the flight deck if they want. That'd be quite good.
Right.
Okay, just get them to chuck them all in the flight deck as they will pass.
It'll be a bit of a tip.
Yeah, indeed. You were chortling there, Nev. What have you discovered?
No. I was just thinking that I'd like to see that, as people. I mean, Pip was saying, wasn't he, on a podcast a while ago, that occasionally people try and tip the flight crew on some of the flights that he does, but I don't know whether that'd be quite the same thing here or not. I
know a lot of cabin crew will quite often bring gifts for other cabin crew when they fly with different airlines. That seems to be a thing, certainly with sort of cabin crew that I know. Mainly chocolate, it seems. That seems to be the popular thing, is to bring them. You think, surely you get sick of airport Toblerone, but apparently not.
Yes, exactly. Well, the next story,
a donut.
A donut, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Crispy
cream.
That would be.
They always like a Krispy Kremes.
A bit of quality, yeah, absolutely. If you're going to have a donut, may as well have the best.
Exactly.
Yep, absolutely. Go for the premium product. On the so the next story, Matt, if you mind taking this, and this is on the jet2.com website.
Me, Matt. Which Matt?
Yes. Sorry, there's too many Matts, aren't there? The A320 Podcast, Matt.
Yeah.
that would be my fault. Sorry.
That's all right. So the jet2.com website is from their own website, and it is win your own party plane with Jet2 Holidays. It says from their website, we have some very exciting news to announce today, as Jet2 Holidays is giving one lucky person the chance to win the ultimate money can't buy prize, a weekend in Mallorca flying on our very own private party plane with a celebrity guest on board.
I'm not sure Ryland Clark
I was
Neal
just about
is.
to say, we'll decide on whether it's a celebrity or not.
Yeah, absolutely.
To celebrate us taking delivery of our 100th aircraft, we have today launched a competition for one person to win the actual aircraft for a weekend. The aircraft will be your very own VIP party plane that flies you to Mallorca, where you can enjoy a weekend of fun, sun, and celebrations. Not only will you get to invite 99 of their friends and family along, but celebrity presenter, in inverted commas, Ryland Clark Neal will join you to make the trip even more memorable. I have no idea who that is.
Right. Ryland Clark Neal appeared very briefly on the X Factor. He was very famous for basically bawling his eyes out in front of, I think it was Cheryl or someone like that, wasn't it? I can't even remember who it was. Anyway, one of the judges, and he had a bit of a very famous meltdown about it. But anyway, off the back of that, he's had a very successful career with Family Show. Sorry, very successful career with things like Big Brothers. Big Brother's bit on the side, and also he does a lot of stuff for like This Morning and things now as well. So
he looks
weirdly,
like Andy, but with makeup on, doesn't he?
Yeah, maybe he should grow a beard. Clearly, oh no, he's got one, hasn't he? Yes, there we go.
He's
Yeah,
got one,
absolutely. Yeah. Maybe perhaps we could persuade Andy to try that look.
Yeah.
I can feel the abusive tweets coming in any moment. He's going to pull over, especially. I can.
Yeah, imminent trolling.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, what does it say? Yeah, so you can jet off from one of the 9 UK bases on Friday the 26th of April and head to the 4-star Melia Calvia Beach in Mallorca for the weekend, where you make memories to last a lifetime. It says to be in charge with a chance of winning, we are calling on party goers to get creative and choose their own party themes, whether it's all the glitter and unicorns you can imagine or rewinding back the years to the flares and crazy hair. We will help build the winning party idea into a fun-filled, unforgettable experience. So whether it's a birthday, a wedding, a special anniversary or a group trip, the party playing competition offers a chance to create a unique weekend abroad that will never be forgotten. To enter, visit their website. There's a link there to create your own party plane, or you can watch Rylan explain more about the competition by clicking on the link.
Yeah, well, I don't.
Sorry, go on.
I don't know if I feel like, because this obviously is listened to quite by all over the world, and I suspect there's an awful lot of people who have no idea who Rylan actually is.
Well. Like I say, me neither. I mean, you can take 99 of your friends plus Rylan. Could you not just take 100 friends and just
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There we go. Yeah. All right. Well, I was going to play the video, but I don't think I'm going to bother. But I mean, I don't know. Is this just a very sort of, I don't know. It's kind of a nice idea, I suppose.
I think it's a good idea, actually. I mean, it's quite fun, isn't it?
I don't know. Well, I mean, I don't know 100 people I'd want to go on holiday with, though. I mean,
no.
That's half the issue. I don't think I know 100 people, let alone want to go on holiday with them.
I think we just got the idea for the next meetup. We should all.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, that sounds like a campaign right there, ladies and gentlemen. I think.
Where do we sign up?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Nev, put that one in the for the next meeting.
I'll
will you?
make a note of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
That'd be quite a 300th episode, wouldn't it?
Yeah. My goodness. Yes, we're talking about the what we can do for the 300th. I'll make a note of that as a possibility.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we've got to win it, of course. I mean, obviously, with our marvellous listeners, of course, and their fabulous ideas, we would, of course, win. But yeah, it's an interesting idea. Let's run with it, shall we?
Yes, let's do that. The next story is on the traveller.com.au website, and it says this is all about the world's worst airline slogans. Well, some airline slogans are bona fide classics. So British Airways with the world's favourite airline, Qantas with the spirit of Australia, for example. Others, well, they're not so good. And these are some of the more dodgy efforts. Tajik Air, national airline of Tajikistan. Many of the worst slogans are phenomenally boring and essentially just passion-free dictionary descriptions. Tajik Air goes absolutely straight down the line without giving innovation a second thought. But it's not even a boast. It's not as if Tajikistan is particularly well known for its airlines. So being the national airline doesn't exactly bestow much kudos.
Woohoo.
The next one is Lion Air, and their slogan is "We make you fly." Well, given Lion Air's enthusiasm diminishing safety record,
yes.
This is a motto that's probably ripe for changing. The element of compulsion about it is off-putting, to say the least.
Yes, indeed.
The next one is Malindo Air, the smarter way to stay high. It says,
I'm sorry, what? I can't let
what
that
are they
go.
putting in these in-flight cookies? Delightful though the idea is of onboard bongs or cannabis diffused through the air conditioning system may be. We suspect whoever dreamed up this slogan for the Malaysian and Indonesian airline wasn't exactly aware of the double meaning.
I bet they were very relaxed about the whole thing. Yeah.
Yes. Well, Solomon Airlines, their slogan is "Discover somewhere completely different." We know that what Solomon Airlines is trying to do here suggests it flies to unusual, off-the-beaten-track destinations just right for exploring. Unfortunately, it comes across as though it'll fly you somewhere completely different to the place you're booked to go to.
Do you not think maybe some of these appalling slogans are literally because of the literal translation from from like the native language to English, because quite often, I mean, I'll give you an example, isn't it? What is it? It's the gilet protesters. That you've got the Illumina gilets, isn't it? I mean that those protesters. It sounds so much sexier somehow in French, doesn't it? The gilet. It's like here in the UK, it's man in high vis vest. It hasn't got the same ring to it, has it? I mean, so you get some of these things. It's the same sort of translation, isn't it? I wonder if it's some of it is literally that. It's the literal translation doesn't sort of make it. Doesn't come over.
I'll just read a couple more here. Yeti Airlines, you come first. Air Tanzania, the wings of Kilimanjaro. Adria Airways, taking off to the future. Syrian Air means safety. That's always a good slogan, I think. Druck Air, on the wings of the dragon.
Right.
Spice Jet, red hot spicy. Air Europe, you still have a choice.
Oh,
Continental, we really move our tails for you.
Right.
And Air Jamaica, feel it when you fly. So these are obviously a result of some heavy duty late night marketing meetings. I'm sure.
Absolutely. Yes, maybe one too many.
More than a few fails there.
Yes, I suspect you may be right. We'll move on to the next story, shall we, Nev, rather quickly?
Yes,
and that is on the phillyvoice.com, and the headline is JetBlue is giving away a free year of travel if you delete your Instagram. For many on social media, half the joy of travel is being able to post about it, sparking more #wanderlust as people scroll through your feed. Now JetBlue wants to help a few hopeful travellers to see new places, but not for the gram. As part of a contest promoting the return of the airline's all-you-can-jet pass, JetBlue is asking participants to delete or archive their Instagram feeds, and in return they could receive 1 year of free flights. There will be 3 winners chosen, each of whom will also get airfare covered for their travel companions. JetBlue even showed how serious they were about flying with a blank slate by deleting the airline's own Instagram feed, save for one post promoting the contest. You have to do more than delete your life's work of food and dog pictures to qualify, however. In addition to clearing out your photos sometime between now and March the 8th, you then have to visit the contest website and upload a photo that shows a person or place you want to visit. Caption the photo by filling in the blank all you can upload the image and the caption to the site, and your now vacant Instagram feed using the hashtag allyoucanjetsweepstakes. Now, the only issue I have with this is just like, I mean, I don't do a lot of social media anymore, but one of the few social medias I actually do is Instagram. That is something I do because I like the photos element too. So it's nice to sort of share. I mean, in fact, I did exactly that with our trip yesterday, Nev. I sort of posted a couple of pictures from there, but I don't know how comfortable I would feel, like, because some people, they use Instagram quite a lot. They've got a lot of photos on their Instagram feed. Are you really going to have that many people willing to delete their entire Instagram feed? I mean, could you I think that's the
purpose of the competition.
Could you? But what's to stop you from setting up a new profile?
That's a good question.
Well, perhaps I found the answer there. Yeah, so scrap that. Open a new profile. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, hey, who isn't going to want a ticket to basically fly anywhere within their network? I suppose, isn't it? JetBlue's network. JetBlue, are they states based?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they are. Yes.
They're a New York airline.
Yeah. Oh, well, there we are. Good luck to the winners.
Yeah. So anybody that does want to enter, it ends on the 8th of March at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Okay.
So I just looked up the website.
Oh, right. Okay. Are you looking at travel options when you get home? Is that what it is?
Well, I don't use Instagram. I have like one picture on Instagram.
Perfect. So there we are. You're already there.
I'm happy to delete that picture if I get to get to a free flight.
Yeah, no, fair point. Yeah, winning.
Yes, exactly. Well, the next story is on the iafrica.com website, and it says that Boeing has delivered the first 737 MAX 8 to Comair Limited, which becomes the first airline in sub-Saharan Africa to operate the fuel-efficient jet. The airplane is the first of 8 737 MAXs on order for Comair, as the airline looks to refresh its fleet and offer better service for its passengers. The arrival of the MAX 8 aircraft is a continuation of our fleet renewal program and builds on the most modern and efficient fleet in South Africa, said Renel Stander, Executive Director of Comair's airline division. It's the first of these aircraft to operate in Southern Africa, and these newer aircraft, which showcase state-of-the-art technology, will improve our customer experience, enable us to hedge against fuel price volatility, and enhance our operating efficiency. The new airplane enters a growing African aviation market where the domiciled fleet has almost doubled in the past 2 decades. And over the next 2 decades, Africa will require nearly 1,200 new jets, according to Boeing's commercial market outlook. Boeing airplanes represent nearly 70% of the continent's in-service fleet. Comair flies an all-Boeing fleet that includes 18 next generation and 7 classic 737s for its Kulula.com and British Airways, operated by Comair brands. The 737 MAX 8 will allow Comair to achieve 14% better fuel efficiency and lower emissions whilst flying 600 nautical miles farther than its predecessor. The MAX's improved performance is enabled by advanced CFM International LEAP 1B engines, advanced technology winglets, and other airframe enhancements. Outfitted with the popular Boeing Sky interior, the MAX 8 can seat 189 passengers in a single-class configuration. The 737 MAX family is the fastest-selling airplane in Boeing's history, accumulating over 5,000 orders from more than 100 customers worldwide. And it says, we are delighted to welcome Comair to our growing MAX family. The airline will be able to significantly lower its operating costs, fly farther, and provide their customers with a better flying experience, says the Senior Vice President of Commercial Sales and Marketing of Boeing. From the classic 737 to the next generation 737 and now to the 737 MAX, we are honoured to build our partnership with Comair and support their success in the years ahead. And I seem to recall, actually, I flew on a Comair flight, a British Airways Comair flight when I went to when I was in South Africa. I think it was a 737-300. So this is obviously replacing that range, I would imagine. Yeah. So that's good news.
Yeah. If you look at the differences between a 737-300 and a MAX, just for size comparison, going from South Africa to somewhere about Nigeria is the U.S. equivalent of flying from San Francisco to basically Buffalo, New York. Or another comparison is South Africa to Tanzania is about the same as Sicily to Scotland. So and those are just about a third of the way up the continent from South Africa if you're going north. So if you can, calculate the savings of a 300 and a MAX, that's huge for cost savings for Comair.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's fuel efficiency and operating costs. That's the name of the game at the moment, isn't it? That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, I don't think they're the only airline trying to achieve that exact same model, are they? I mean, it's
yeah. Absolutely.
It's really why we're getting sad stories like the A380 coming out of service, isn't it? It's all about trying to be as fuel efficient and cost effective as possible.
Yes. So next one for you, Armando, on thedrive.com.
Yeah, so this is another Southwest Airlines story, and it goes, if at first you don't succeed, try again. If that still doesn't work, divert to another airport. At least that seems to be the version of the axiom followed by pilots of commercial airliner earlier this week. A 737 flown by Southwest Airlines was forced to abort its landing at Connecticut's Bradley International Airport after 3 failed attempts to land in high winds, including one that caused the aircraft's wing to slap against the runway.
Wow.
I'd have to double check that.
Okay.
Let's see. According to FlightAware's flight tracking data, Southwest 2169 took off from Orlando International Airport on the 25th of February with the intention of landing in the Hartford area about 7 p.m., except that arrival time meant the twin-engine Boeing reached Bradley in the midst of a windstorm that was slapping the Northeast silly, as they say.
Wow. Yeah. Is that a thing?
Yeah, I suppose it is on the internet.
Right, okay, fair enough.
Everything's a thing on the internet. I'd say winds at the time were consistently about 30 miles per hour, which granted is not that much, with gusts reaching around 50 miles per hour. That was strong enough to force the pilots to break off their landing attempts 3 different times, with the aircraft's right wing scraping the ground on 1 attempt, according to Southwest. The 737-700 finally touched down about 7:30, not at Bradley, but at Warwick, Rhode Island, about 67 miles to the southeast. Some of the passengers lost their cookies, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I was going to say, actually, we'll summarise this story a little bit, because actually there's been similar sort of things. Now, the next story is again along the same lines, but actually this particular airport is famous for its crosswinds. I think it's fair to say that, is it?
Yes, it is. And our very own A320 pilot is going to talk us through it, because this was the aircraft involved. So, Matt, if you want to talk us through the next story. Matt, A320 Podcast, Matt, that is.
Matt seems to be on mute.
Oh, does he?
Ah, okay. Well, that's unfortunate.
Oh, dear.
Sorry, I can't get on the drive. When I click on it, it says not available in your country.
It's available in my country, and we're only about 45 miles away. It's straight. No.
Oh, okay.
Would you like me to read it then, Matt?
Go on then, and I'll comment.
If you can't get it.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm sure I've got the videos here, so
I'll
play them as well.
Okay.
So,
okay. Well, it says, of course, there's lots of, exaggeration and stuff here, but it says a crazy video of British Airways flight BA492, which is a flight I have taken regularly, actually.
Wow.
Which was an Airbus A320 flying from London Heathrow to Gibraltar, appeared online today, showing the aircraft climbing whilst its wings rocked violently back and forth. At first, many thought the video was a fake, but it turned out it was real, and now we have additional footage of what it looked like for passengers inside the teetering jet. The video shot from the ground was taken shortly after a go-around was initiated during an attempt to land at Gibraltar's international airport. You can see the aircraft rolling hard from left to right as it climbs away. Supposedly, high winds were the cause of the go-around, but there aren't any reports of extreme weather in the area beyond 25-knot winds. These are nothing to slouch at, especially as they come from a direction that would result in a high crosswind component for the landing. But the explanation of those winds pushing a large jet like the A320 into such a sudden, violent and extended wing rocking motion really doesn't make all that much sense. And it says, from looks of the videos, a few factors could be at play here beyond just wind gust or wind shear. The violent and uncontrolled wing rocking motion is somewhat indicative of the beginning of a stall. Really. During a stall, the inner part of a swept wing stops flying first, which can induce an uncontrolled wing rocking motion as the outer sections maintain lift and the aircraft's ailerons continue to function, albeit in a more sluggish manner. Catalyzed by a gust from one side of the plane, this could at least be a partial answer to what we are seeing. In addition, whilst counteracting this condition or just a major gust of wind itself, the Airbus, which uses a fly-by-wire flight control system, may have entered into something of a pilot-induced oscillation, further exacerbating the rolling motions, albeit briefly.
Now, I'm not...
Right, so Mr. A320 Podcast, what's going on here then exactly?
Well, I'd be very, very surprised if it was anywhere near the stall. I think that's rubbish. I don't think it's near the stall. Certainly if they're in what we call normal law, which is everything working, then they're not going to be you can't stall the Airbus in normal law. So I don't think it's anywhere near that. Obviously there's some turbulence. I think possibly more.
I'm sorry. I love how you say. Obviously, there's a bit of turbulence. It's like, I mean, seriously, if I was on that aeroplane, I mean, the colour of my face alone would be frightening the passengers nearby. I mean, I'm literally, while Nev was reading out that story, I played the video twice because it's just like everything that terrifies me about flying was in those two videos.
But there's nothing dangerous that happened in it. I mean, it wouldn't have felt very comfortable for the passengers because you wouldn't have known what was going on. So it wouldn't have felt very nice, probably. But the aircraft was never in any danger. I think there's a lot of sensationalism in the media.
Okay.
But I think what we call, PIO, which is what the article alluded to, is pilot-induced oscillation. Particularly with the Airbus, it can be easy to do that because it's fly-by-wire. And it's not like a fighter jet that's, super rapid. So if you've got if the aircraft rolls one way and you do full deflection of the side of the control stick in the opposite direction, there's a bit of a lag. So by the time it starts rolling back and then you let go of the stick, it will continue to then roll. And what happens is the pilot ends up causing this over-rolling, which may be part of it. I don't know.
That's when I first saw the video from the ground, I thought it was fake. I'd never seen an airplane do that from the outside. So, but that does explain
where they wave the wings, doesn't it?
Yeah, and then but that makes perfect sense with the fly-by-wire system because I was like, how do you end up in that situation? And there was a similar one just a day or two after that in the U.S. It was another Airbus that was in a similar situation.
I mean, a classic example of that, if anyone's ever read the reports on the AirAsia crash, that was on the Airbus, but they'd put it into a degraded law, control system law, which meant that the aircraft didn't have the protections, which is why they crashed. But that was caused by a similar thing that the aircraft rolled itself, and then they overcorrected, and it very harshly rolled the opposite way, and then they ended up doing a very similar thing to what you saw there, but they didn't have the stall protection, so they did stall from that.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, it's an interesting one to read, that AirAsia crash. Yeah.
Now, I think in the situation here at Gibraltar, they're landing on runway 09, so they are doing quite a big late right-hand turn onto the final approach to avoid the Spanish airspace. And of course, by doing that, you are susceptible to these rotors that are set up by the rock itself. And if you recall, when we were talking to Trevor Hammond of Nats in Gibraltar, he was saying that's one of the biggest problems that pilots can have. But there was plenty of energy in the aircraft, and there's some funny stuff going on. But also read on some websites that it was the autopilot, this, that, and the other. But I really don't think there's any autopilot going on there because it's all manual flying onto the runway there on 09, and then they're off to Malaga after that because he's not going to make a second attempt with those sorts of conditions that prevail, I would imagine. Matt, what do you think?
And for the aircraft to be rolling that violently would probably drop the autopilot out, because the autopilot would probably say, I can't deal with this.
I'm out. Yeah,
exactly. But I mean, from the pilot's point of view, obviously it would have probably got their adrenaline going, but I can totally understand why the passengers would have felt terrified, because it's obviously not how an aeroplane normally feels when you coming into land. I mean, a lot of passengers are terrified just after a normal go around because they're not expecting it. So you can understand where, there were some people saying, I felt like I dodged death and all these sort of things, which is very sensationalist, but you can understand why they felt that, because passengers are normally edgy anyway on a flight, aren't they?
I mean, it's safe to. It's not a flight that I would have enjoyed. Let's put it that way. I don't think there was.
I don't fly to Gibraltar, and I'm not checked out on Gib, so it's not something I have any expertise on the actual approach. But obviously, speaking to other people, and like you say, they have rotors. Because just like air just acts like water. So if you've got a puddle in a stream, a pebble in a stream, and you can see all the ripples and eddies coming off of it, you get exactly the same air. Air is actually a fluid, so it just acts exactly the same, and it would have just been something caused by the rock, I would have thought.
And also, it's not a long runway at Gibraltar. It's 6,000 feet long, so you really can't muck about. And if there's a chance that it might be too difficult or too dangerous to land, then they'll either go around or they'll go to Malaga or somewhere else. It's having said that, all the times I've flown into Gibraltar, which is probably about 10 or 11 now, I think, in total. Very occasionally it's been a bit lumpy, but nothing like was being experienced there, I must say. And so far we've never ended up at Malaga. So, but there's the first time brewing, I suppose.
Yeah.
Put that next time round. But so as you couldn't do the story A320 podcast, Matt, would you like to take the next one on the itv.com website instead?
Thought you might say that. I've got that one up ready.
Haha.
Excellent. So this one is titled Flybe Plane Evacuated at Exeter Airport. It says, a Flybe flight has been evacuated at Exeter Airport in an ongoing incident with reports that part of the site has been closed off. The plane could be seen from the runway with its emergency evacuation slides deployed. And amazingly, it is actually on the runway, because the media like to say it's on the runway where it's anywhere on an airport, but this one is actually on the runway. Eyewitnesses say the plane was just about to take off when the pilot switched off the engines and told everyone to get off the plane. It then became very rushed. You would hope so. One passenger told ITV News. Theo Sampson was on board the Alicante-bound flight when the cabin began to smell of smoke. He said the pilot said evacuate immediately when he all scrambled for the emergency exits. I went for the slide at the front of the plane, and when I exited the aircraft, there were 2 fire trucks that were waiting, and shortly after, 1 ambulance came. As the cabin smelt of smoke and we could see it coming into the cabin, also everyone was looking around worried, and after the pilot told us to evacuate, we all got up so quickly. We were all there waiting to get on the walkway, but there wasn't enough room. 100 passengers and 5 crew members had to leave the plane, which was preparing for takeoff, and the Embraer 195 aircraft was moved off the runway and passengers were evacuated via slides. Exeter Airport says the pilot decided to stop the flight after reporting an air quality issue in the cockpit. It's thought 1 person suffered from an ankle injury. Passengers were taken back to the terminal by bus, where they were told that another flight was being arranged. Flybe have confirmed that another flight has been found for the holidaymakers. The new plane is scheduled to leave at 12:35, and the plane is now thought to be in a hangar at the airport. There you go.
Well, have you noticed the slides on that E195, Matt, how shallow they are? And I saw some of this on the television, the evacuation going on. They barely got any speed up going down those slides.
They are really long, aren't they?
Yes. Yeah, incredible.
Perhaps they, I don't know, maybe they got them cheap. Perhaps they're like off the 7.5 or something, and they stuck them on the Embraer.
That's it. Yeah, it's all to do with the cutbacks, isn't it? You see?
Yeah,
exactly.
Matt, how much does that weigh into your emergency procedures about commanding an evacuation of an aircraft? I mean.
Well, yeah, obviously, if you have to evacuate, we have a procedure for that. It wouldn't have just been an off-the-cuff remark. We have it's a huge decision to make because, people will get injured. And as you saw here, there's 1 ankle injury. So, yeah, I don't suppose it's something they took lightly. So it must have been serious enough for them to do that.
Well, of course, I mean, when I know from conversations like when the slides have been deployed, it's not a 5-minute job to get the aircraft, usable again, essentially.
No, absolutely not. No,
so, as you say, that it's a tough decision that somebody's made to say no, we need to evacuate the aircraft immediately. Yeah. And of course, with any airline, of course, safety is paramount. So the decision was obviously made that was the safest thing to do.
Yeah. And I mean, you say this one's obviously quite slow, but on most airliners, I've been down one because I have to do it for past fire training. You're going pretty fast when you get to the bottom. Like when you think of all like the elderly people and stuff you get on a flight, it gets you to the bottom pretty quick. So, and what they don't tell you on the safety cards is at the bottom there's like a rough, almost like a Velcro strip, and it's designed to like basically cause you to flick up onto your feet. So as you get there, you have to sort of start running in the air because it fires you sort of into the vertical position as you get to the bottom. So it really does throw you down. But these ones, like you say, they're very shallow. I'm not sure what these ones were like.
It's just more reason to wear long sleeves and long trousers when you're flying.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Shirt, tie, smoking jacket. Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw a documentary. I think it was a pretty old British Airways documentary about I think a 747 going into its annual check, and they were saying it takes like 6 hours to pack one of these slides into its container.
Yeah, I quite believe it. I quite believe it. It's well, I presume. I mean, again, also these things. I mean, they're fired, aren't they? I mean, you pull a lever and it fills up, doesn't it? So you've got the canisters involved. Obviously, the substance that blows them up. I mean, that's
yeah. You think how big those slides are? I think they inflate in something like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty quick.
There's quite an accelerant there, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So it's I think a nitrogen or a CO2 canister, but it doesn't inflate though. It just creates enough pressure.
Okay.
That goes through a venturi, and then it picks up ambient air and mixes it with that, and then that's what
inflates it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, fair point.
Would you like to take the last story then, Armando, on the metro.co.uk website?
Sure. Let's see. This abandoned airport terminal is transformed into a swanky new 60s hotel. If you were an avid traveler or enjoyed the odd holiday before the year 2001, you might remember the old. Oh, I can't believe they call it the old carrier. The old carrier, Trans World Airlines. Sadly for the aircraft company, it's not an aircraft company, it was an airline. It ceased operation that year, and the terminal dedicated to it at John F. Kennedy Airport had been abandoned for 18 years. However, it was recently rebranded as a swanky hotel themed around the swinging 60s. The airport's first hotel will pay homage to the former occupant as it has been named TWA. The project is part of a large-scale renovation project worth $265 million. Soon you can stay in one of their 512 guest rooms with views of Manhattan, or for all of us aerophiles, rooms of JFK's runways as well as TWA's flight center. You can expect a 10,000 square foot rooftop observation deck with a pool, 6 restaurants, 8 bars, and a massive red lounge transformed from check-in desks that will make all of your Instagram pics popular. Futuristic architecture and navigation lovers will also love the flight theme, as the hotel comes with a museum devoted to the jet age, TWA, and the modern design movement. One of the country's largest airlines, TWA, began operations in 1930 and shut its doors in 2001. Let's see. So I was looking at the actual hotel website for this, and what is not mentioned in this article is that they took an old Lockheed Constellation, which is my favorite airplane, and they trucked it in. They repainted it, renovated it, and trucked it back into JFK Airport. So I think part of the conference center will have a Lockheed Constellation in TWA colors, which is awesome. Looks really, really nice, and it is right next to the JetBlue terminal at JFK. So I think once this opens, if I'm ever going through JFK, I will probably make a point to spend the night there.
Yeah, I mean, is it expensive? I mean, how does it compare price-wise to your average hotel? Have they given any indications as to cost?
So it didn't look any more expensive than any other airport hotel. So, they tend to kind of be a little bit pricier. but no, it looked affordable. So
the magic word, affordable. We like that. Yes.
Yeah. I want to do a Premier Inn breakfast as well.
Oh, of course, absolutely. Other airport chain, other hotel chains are available, of course.
Yes, exactly.
They're not as good, but they are available.
Indeed. Well, that brings us to the end of the commercial news segment for this week. And we'll be back after these words.
Find this and other great shows at the Aviation Media Network.
thevoicesinyourhead.com.
The Plain Talking UK podcast is a voluntary project that aims to keep you informed with the latest aviation-related stories from newswires across the globe.
Producing our content does cost money though. If you enjoy our show, why not help us keep on the air by making a donation towards the server and website hosting fees through PayPal. Any contributions would be greatly appreciated.
Are you an Amazon user? If so, why not do your shopping through the link on our website? There's no cost to yourself and Amazon pay us a small referral fee on qualifying purchases.
To find out more about the show and to meet the team, take yourself to our website www.plaintalkinguk.com
or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/plaintalkinguk, on Twitter via @plaintalkinguk, or get in touch via email on podcast@plaintalkinguk.com. Thanks for listening.
Flybe 5823 Trent Dane for 23-hour Manchester, Wizz Air 6X, climb flight level 210, direct to Bretlands Park. United 123, maintain 280 knots. London 2DME, turn right onto Bravo, link, 21 join Alpha, hold at Mora, Speedbird 472, LOC/DME, approach runway 27 left, follow the green stand 544.
That's enough air traffic control for today, Nat. Bedtime.
So we came up with the idea of having a video course.
Obviously ours are better because we've got the experience on the aircraft and we know what we need to be looking at.
Something that myself and Andy started initially really to improve our own technical knowledge and put something out there. We saw that there was a gap and this wasn't a media that was being used for this purpose, and our hunch was right because there's obviously a market for it.
Have you ever wondered what it would be like to fly a commercial passenger jet? Looked up at the sky and thought, I wish that was me? Well, now anyone has the chance to have a go at flying in a real aircraft simulator. NP Simulations and Flight Experience London, the only official Boeing licensed product of its kind in the UK, offer you the chance to fly anywhere in the world in their fixed-base Boeing 737-800 flight simulator. And that's not all. Ground School London offers many different courses for the up-and-coming pilot looking for a start in aviation. With prices starting at just £109, the sky's the limit. So for the ultimate flight simulator experience, or engaging preparatory courses, including those for schools and colleges, check out the websites at www.london.flightexperience.co.uk and www.groundsschoollondon.com, or call on 020 300 40 616. NP Simulations. Fly your dreams.
Well, we haven't done a Nev's passenger experience for a while, have we? So I thought, well, as we've got Matt from the A320 podcast on the show, he had a very recent flight with the folks on Jet 2. Now, we heard some really good reports from Jet 2 passengers recently. So, Matt, tell us all about it. How was it, and where did you go and where did you fly from?
Yeah, well, you're going to hear much of the same today. Obviously, I don't often say which airline I work for, but you'll know that this is a rival because obviously Jet2 only have the Boeing, so with a rival airline. First of all, we went to Turkey and we went from East Midlands because they were so booked up I couldn't get anywhere out of Stansted. So I had to drive all the way up to East Midlands Airport, which was new for me. I've never been there. So new airline for me, new airport. And yeah, it was a great experience. I don't know if either of you guys have been to East Midlands, but
I've looked at it from the outside. I was actually there only a couple of weekends ago, believe it or not. There's a lot of construction work going on nearby, actually, with hotels and stuff. They're obviously hoping for big things, I think, there.
Yeah. We did that. We stayed in a hotel the night before because it's about 2.5 hour drive from here. So myself, my wife and my 2 daughters, we headed up there and went through. It's lovely in there. It's a very quiet airport. Walked straight into what felt like a small room almost, where all the check-in desks were. Checked in, and then it was 10 minutes from there through security and to the gates area. So it was really nice and very pleasant, and especially with 2 young children, it was very stress-free. So the airport itself was fantastic. Once we got to the gate, they just opened the doors. It was a nice walk just across pretty much a road to get on, so it wasn't very much walking at all. So it's quite different to most airport experiences, so that was very nice. And then it got onto the flight. The aircraft was great. I'm not the tallest person in the world, so I can't really give neither's my wife. She's only 4'11", so she feels like she's in business class on any flight.
Okay. Oh, how lovely. I'm so jealous.
And I'm not very tall either, but we had plenty of leg room, as you can see from the picture there that Matt's put up. So I was very pleased with that. Something that I like on all, there's my short legs, but yeah, there's plenty of room. And the leather seats, I think that a few airlines are realizing now that it's actually cheaper in the long run to have leather seats, because, you know, they're much easier to keep clean. You don't have to keep replacing them and things like that. So they're, very comfortable seats. So I was very pleased with that. And one thing I really liked is that they had boarding music, which seems to be something that not many airlines do these days, certainly not the low cost. No. Certainly went well with my children, because they played A Million Dreams from Greatest Showman.
Oh, fantastic. Excellent.
So they were singing along to that on boarding. So, yeah, but I think it's good. I think it adds an air of quality and also tranquility. I think it's quite nice having music when you board. I think
and of course, it is very commonplace whenever you do sort of long haul. I mean, that is still very much a thing, isn't it? You will be getting on to, like, United or Delta or any of the big carriers. I presume it's the same with BA, Nev, where you've got you've got a music that you're listening to as you get onto. I mean, it's very quiet. You can't necessarily pick up what it is that they're playing, but it does sort of create that atmosphere, doesn't it, as you're getting on board?
Yeah, it does. It sort of takes away I don't know, it just feels calmer by getting on an aeroplane that's got music playing. I really liked it.
Yeah,
it's good. Flight was lovely. The crew were all very good, very friendly. We enjoyed that. Flew into Antalya. Very nice landing, especially for a Boeing, so I was waiting for it to
Boeing.
Yeah. 73, but no, it was very good. It was all right. It's always interesting when you sit where you can see where I sat.
Yeah.
You can see all the pulleys and stuff in the wing and all the cables, which obviously you don't get on the Airbus.
Right.
That's very good. But my absolute favourite thing, so I'm excited about simple things like this, is the cup holder that they had is absolutely genius. I don't know if Matt can bring up.
Okay. Yeah.
I thought this was brilliant. Like, every airline in the world should put this cup holder. Whoever designed this is a genius.
Okay. Yeah. Just keep filling for a minute.
So I mean, there's the only slight criticism is that the trays that came down were really, really short, so there wasn't that much room. I was doing some podcast stuff on my laptop, and I sort of had to wedge. There we are. There's the cup holder. How clever is that? It just pulls down, and it's
such a simple idea, but it's just actual genius. Yeah.
I love that. That was brilliant.
I'll tell you what, and I've had a couple of incidences, like with Ryanair, where I've had my drink in my in the little, like, divot that's in the the thing where and it's like you've had a bump and it's fallen over. But to actually, as you say, because it's literally going halfway down the cup, so the chances of it sort of accidentally spilling is sort of almost non-existent.
Yeah, I mean, Nev, I don't think BA business class even has that, does it?
They don't. No, certainly not.
I hope they're listening.
Yeah. This is clearly the future. This is where everybody's going wrong.
Yeah. Isn't there somebody that just holds your cup though the whole flight now?
Yeah.
That is a good point. Yes.
You get your own personal assistant, of course. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what was the food like then, Matt? How did that fare?
Well, it was just standard. We didn't get any food on board, to be honest, but it was just the usual what you would expect. Really, it looked quite nice what other people had. They had some actual meals, so it was a morning flight on the way out, so no one had any meals. But on the way back, I saw some people. They had like macaroni cheese and those sort of things. So they had quite a good selection, it seemed, but we didn't buy any food on board, so I can't tell you what it tasted like, but it looked tasty. Okay. Yeah. So I made the obligatory purchase, of course.
Of course, well, quite right. Yes, I've got one somewhere. Which Carlos, like when we moved to here, Carlos took with me because Lee bought me one because Lisa and Lee who have quite often sat here in the studio when we've been doing the show, and they bought me one, and I still haven't had it back. Carlos, find it. I want it back.
Nice. I bought the 7.5 as well. I was really disappointed. That's the only thing I was disappointed about is they don't have any 7.5s at East Midlands.
Right.
So yeah, it was 7.3.
You can keep your 7.5s where you can shove them where the sun don't. I'm not a fan.
But they seem to have got the whole thing very well sorted out, don't they? They've aimed at a very specific kind of market, and they just do it very well. They don't try and do things that are on the peripheral side of their main business. They've concentrated on a very specific area, and I think they've ticked a lot of boxes by doing that, haven't they?
Yeah, definitely. It's a good product. I think they've got a really good thing going there. Yeah, it was good. And all the crew are happy. They seemed, all the flights that we saw on the board were on time. The crew only do 2 sector days, so that's quite unusual for a low-cost airline. They have long turnarounds. I think they had over an hour turnaround when they got there.
And that is the one thing that, I mean, again, like, I've known sort of several people, several friends who've all flown with Jet2, and they've all said exactly the same thing as you, Matt. The one thing that they're sort of almost surprised about is how happy the cabin crew are, which weirdly you'd have thought would have been like, not a thing because I mean, a flight I had back from where was I coming back from? I think it was coming back from New York, and it was a United flight. And honestly, I've never met crew so miserable. And this is a long haul carrier where you sort of I don't know, perhaps you sort of, it was United, perhaps that's where I was going wrong, but it was you just sort of assume that in the same way, like even in my job, you do your best to smile where you can, and sort of
exactly.
It's not their fault you're miserable, is it? I mean,
no. Yeah, I mean, I think that doesn't really matter which airline I had a BA flight to Philadelphia once where all the crew are totally miserable and that. But I mean, obviously it may be a one-off. I've flown with lots of airlines with happy cabin crew, but everyone just seemed to be enjoying their job. It was quite good, and it's a long day, for them. And Antalya was quite a long day, so for them to be quite jolly and everything on the way home as well, where they've had quite a long day, I think that showed quite a lot.
Showed promise, as they say.
Yeah, definitely. And to get a low-cost airline where they only have 2 sector days is unbelievable. I think it's the way forward. I think it might change where more airlines do this, because I think they might realise that in the long run it's cheaper because they'll have less crew going out of hours.
And less crew going off sick as well, I suppose.
Absolutely, yeah.
I've said this before. I mean, people think that the jobs that you guys do all sounds very glamorous, but it really is. It couldn't be further away from glamorous. Certainly in the insight, if you like, that I've picked up as a result of being involved in this show. Cabin crew and pilots.
That's not a low cost thing either. That's a legacy carrier as well. The job. Maybe long haul there's still a bit, but there's still a lot of the time, not necessarily bang on minimum rest everywhere they go, but there's certainly the days of, going somewhere for the Caribbean for a week is long gone. They'll be there the shortest time that the airline can do.
So, I mean, we won't mention obviously the airline that you fly for, but I mean, what would you recommend that they did, if you like, almost to sort of bring that same vibe, if you like, to who you work for?
I think it would be that. I think it would be try and get less flights out of a day, because an aircraft generally does between probably 8 to 10, sometimes 12 flights a day is what the aircraft is doing. They could probably, if they could cut a couple of those out, then there's a lot more margin in the whole schedule for, at the moment, if an aircraft, this goes for a lot of airlines, they cut the schedule so tight that if the first flight in the morning gets delayed because of fog, then the flight that was supposed to get back at 2 o'clock in the morning will get back at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, because it just snowballs throughout the day.
Yeah, indeed. That's where if it's only doing 2 sectors.
Yeah, so if everyone just did 2 sectors and they had more gaps between the flights, so that if you were late, it doesn't have a knock-on effect, I think it would improve everything for airlines, passengers and the crew.
I suppose on the flip side of that, though, of course, I mean, the reason why those extra flights are in there, I mean, is because the seats are being sold. So I suppose, there is the capacity there, if you like, to fill those flights, unless I suppose you'd maybe take on more staff and more planes. I guess is the only way to solve that. And of course, it's down to airport congestion as well, because they try to get every slot that they can. So they're not going to turn down slots, because once you turn it down, it goes to someone else. So they want to keep the slots, and they'll just do what they can to fly them. Indeed.
Yes, they've got an incredible route network as well. Just having a quick look on the excuse me, on their website, and just in the UK, they're flying from Belfast, Aldergrove, Birmingham, East Midlands, Edinburgh, Glasgow, Leeds, Bradford, Stansted, Manchester, and Newcastle. And the route network is very extensive indeed. And although you might sort of just associate them with the Spanish sector and that kind of thing, they're flying all over the place to Austria, Bulgaria, Croatia, Cyprus, Czech Republic, Copenhagen in Denmark, France, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Iceland, Italy, Malta, please, Carlos, Netherlands to Amsterdam, Krakow in Poland, and Portugal, Spain I've already mentioned, Switzerland, Turkey, where Matt went. So yeah, a really extensive route network, and they seem to be doing it very well. Would you say it was good value for money as well, from your point of view, Matt?
No, it was quite expensive actually. I think for the 4 of us, it was about £1,000, I think. But it was last minute. We only booked it 10 days before we went. But the flights were all full. They the other thing that they do with their routes is most people that fly to Turkey, because we go there quite regularly, they're always those horrible overnight flights, whereas these ones were flying out in the morning, getting back at 7 p.m. on the way back, so they were quite pleasant flight times. And they're the only airline, certainly only UK airline, that fly direct to anywhere in Turkey that's not Istanbul through the winter. So they've just started it this year. So this year, the Stansted and East Midlands flights are going to go all through the winter. So they're going to be the only people. So anyone that's got holiday homes or wants winter sun or anything in Turkey, their only option is going to go with Jet2. So I think they could be onto a winner there. So.
Yeah, that's great, isn't it? Well, it's a nice, good news story there, isn't it? Very nice.
Yeah,
indeed. Very good.
So yeah, overall, thumbs up. I thought they were great.
Nice.
I think that continues to solidify everything we hear about Jet2, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it does. Yeah, it seems to.
And they're doing well. I mean, their 100th aircraft. That's quite an expansion, isn't it? And I understand from people I know at Jet2 that their new Stansted base, I think they've got 12 aircraft in there. That's what they initially put in. It's doing really well, apparently. So, good. Hopefully, good luck to them that it will continue.
Yeah. Oh, and actually, Lee's just said in it. My friend Lee's just messaged me saying one of the things they do is they do the twilight check-in and hotel resort check-in too, which they've used before. It sort of takes some of the pressure, so you can check in the night before. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't do that on Turkey flights, I think, because you have to have a visa, and because you have to have a visa for Turkey, you can't do it that night before or something. But I did read that they do that on the on their other routes, which is great.
Yeah.
Very cool. Excellent. Well, thanks for that, Matt. Really appreciate your thoughts on Jet 2 as you've just been on them. So it was
quite right,
brilliant.
yes. A live Nev's passenger experience, look.
Yes. How about that? We must do some more of these. I'll find some more people to chat to about.
Well, we're going to San Francisco in July, so I'll do you another one then.
Excellent. Right, lovely. Okay, we'll have the music and everything, Nev. I've missed your theme tune, I'm not going to lie.
Yes, that's right. I've forgotten all about that. Actually. Yes, that's good, isn't it? So, marvellous. Okay, good. Right, well, so next up then, it's time for some military. So if you're ready with the military music, Matt.
Yeah, why not? Hang on, give me 2 seconds. Yeah, yes, all ready to go. Here we go.
Well, yeah, guys, every week I try to pick out some stories that are from different areas of military aspects. And I guess this first story we're going to kick off is it's a bit sad, but it goes to kind of what we were talking about at the top of the show, where when there is an accident, it takes quite a long time to really conduct a thorough investigation. So this is from flightglobal.com. And it is regarding the light attack aircrafts that we've talked about the last couple episodes. So the U.S. Air Force their investigators have found that a fatal Sierra Nevada Embraer A320 Super Tucano crash in June of 2018 during this light attack aircraft experiment was actually caused by pilot error. So after the crash, the Air Force suspended further experimental flights and eventually finished its testing program prematurely. The pilot flying the A320 died as a result of the crash, while the aircraft's weapon systems officer was able to eject and parachute to safety, sustaining only minor injuries. The accident stemmed from the pilot's over-control of the aircraft, which caused an inadvertent entry into an uncontrolled spiral dive, according to the U.S. Air Force Accident Investigation Board report, which was just released on the 22nd of February. The aircraft entered an uncontrolled spiral dive after the pilot released a 500-pound GBU-12 bomb and failed to compensate correctly for the aircraft's sudden change in weight and balance. The pilot did not apply adequate recovery control inputs to stop the spiral, and to make matters worse, the pilot ejected only 700 feet above ground level and at 1.5 seconds before impact, as opposed to the 5,000-foot minimum height recommendation by the A320 flight manual. Let's see, the weapon systems officer was successfully ejected about 2,000 feet above ground level, also below the minimum recommended height, but was able to survive because there was enough time for his chute to deploy. Let's see, the Air Force light attack experiment is aimed at finding a cheaper to fly aircraft for the Defense Department, U.S. allies, and partner nations to operate. It is currently on hold as the service's leadership ponders expanding the types and number of aircraft under consideration. Previously, only 2 aircraft made it to the final test, which was the Textron AT-6 Wolverine and the Sierra Nevada Embraer A320 Super Tucano. So this was an experiment that has been going on for about 7 years now, and even though they found the cause to be pilot error, I can guarantee you that these are some of the best pilots in the world, and especially when you get selected to evaluate a new aircraft, whether you're in the commercial side, on the military, the business side, or just straight experimental side. These are some of the best pilots. So, accidents happen, but it's just another nod to the sort of danger that is trying out new aircraft and new programs.
Yeah, I think you can never underestimate those sorts of things, can you really, Armando? And no, it's dreadfully sad, terribly sad indeed. Yes, thank you.
The next, go ahead, sorry.
No, after you, sir, after you.
I was going to move on to the next story since Carlos isn't here. I had given him a drone story. So it is from defensenews.com, and it is Boeing unveiling their new loyal Wingman drone. Boeing introduced its air power teaming system at the Australian International Air Show on Wednesday. The concept is designed to perform the role of a loyal wingman to manned platforms and is being developed in partnership with the Royal Australian Air Force. The prototype is expected to fly in 2020. The air power teaming system was designed in Australia by Boeing Defence Australia, and according to Boeing Chief Technical Officer Greg Hislop, the project represents the largest investment in the development of unmanned programs outside the United States. This is how much we believe in this program, its capabilities, its global business potential, and our team here in Australia, said Hislop. Today is a big day for Boeing and a big day for Australia. The program is intended to develop the system for use both by the RAAF and the U.S. Closest partners, the UK and New Zealand and Canada. And it represents a significant defense export opportunity for Australia. So they revealed that the Australian government will contribute to about $40 million to the development of the system, and it is looking to have a range of about 2,000 nautical miles. So I looked a little bit more into this because it was first heard for me, and the concept is it will fly formation. You can deploy, I don't know what the official term is, but you can deploy a flock of them to accompany one aircraft, one bomber, one tanker, or one early warning aircraft, and then these unmanned aircraft will sort of go out like a sci-fi movie and conduct part of the mission or conduct defensive air. So it's a really interesting concept.
Yeah, that's very, very cool indeed, isn't it? Yeah, excellent. Well, shall I take the next story then, Armando? And it's on the UK government's website, and it says that the first flight of the Texan T1 state-of-the-art training aircraft has been completed at RAF Valley. And the forthcoming introduction of this aircraft forms part of a £1.2 billion investment into fixed-wing aircraft training under the Military Flight Training System, MFTS, the evolving program that is designed to train and prepare junior pilots for the front line. Defence Minister Stuart Andrews said, "It's crucial that our fighter pilots of the future train on the very best equipment before reaching the front line to protect UK airspace at home and defend our interests abroad." The introduction of the Texan T1 into one of NATO's most advanced fighter training programs demonstrates the RAF's commitment to investing in world-leading technology to maintain a military advantage over our adversaries. Well, the Texan T1 aircraft, which is due to replace the Tucano in the fast jet training program, made history with its first flight at RAF Valley. The T1 represents a technological step change from its predecessor, with the ability to simulate missions in both fourth and fifth generation aircraft, such as the F-35 Lightning and Typhoon fast jets. Wing Commander Chris Ball, who's the officer commanding the Texan Integration Squadron at RAF Valley, explains, under the Military Flying Training System, fighter pilots will train on world-leading aircraft. They start on the Prefect, moved onto the Texan, and finish on the Hawk T2, making the training process more efficient and far more representative of the aircraft types that they will eventually fly. The Texan is the ideal lead-in trainer to the Hawk T2 advanced jet trainer that they will fly here at Valley. And the first pilot to fly the aircraft in the UK said it was a privilege to be the first RAF pilot to fly a Texan T1 from an RAF station today, and to have been part of the team that has brought this excellent training aircraft into service. The Texan is a great aircraft to fly, extremely capable, and has the ability to better prepare students for the demands of modern fast jet flying than ever before. With the first flight now complete, the whole Texan team can begin looking forward to teaching students in the very near future. I think it's quite interesting, Armando, isn't it? Because that now gives student pilots a tremendous range of aircraft to hone their skills with.
Yeah, absolutely. And the T6 is no slug by any means. It's a 300 mile per hour, 2-seat turboprop, and it's incredibly nimble and proven. With the U.S. Air Force has used it for years, but it's employed worldwide. Really, there's a lot of air forces using the Texan. So I'm really glad to see that the UK is getting there, and that really just opens up. Boy, we're talking a lot about money, but it opens up, a whole parts availability, partnerships, exchanges with other countries, enables UK pilots to go out and train some of our partner nations. So I think it's a great move.
Yeah, excellent. Matt from the A320 Podcast, would you like to have a go at the last story here, story number 4?
Yeah. Certainly. So this one's from Combat Aircraft Military Aviation Magazine, and it's titled F117 Nighthawk is still out there and still flying. The Combat Aircraft Magazine has obtained the clearest photos yet of a flying Lockheed F-117A Nighthawk since the type was officially retired by the US Air Force in April 2008. Photographed on February the 26th, this single unmarked F-117A was operating in the R-2508 range complex near Death Valley in Southern California. The aircraft was flying low-level, escorted by a pair of F-16s that appear to have been providing top cover for the stealth fighter. Persistent reports and supporting imagery have indicated that as many as 6 F-117s remain active from their original home in Tonopah in Nevada. While the US Air Force does not officially acknowledge this, it clearly does not attempt to hide the fact, given that the jets have been seen flying in broad daylight and on this occasion for an extended period of time. When the US Air Force formally retired the Nighthawk in 2008, 52 aircraft were placed into storage at their original home in the Test Range Airfield on the Nellis Test and Training Range in Nevada. One aircraft has since been broken up to demonstrate disposal techniques for the type. The final goodbye was made at Lockheed Martin's Skunk Works at the Air Force's Plant 42 in Palmdale, California on April the 22nd, 2008, when 4 aircraft made a pit stop en route from their last operational home at Holloman Air Force Base in New Mexico. Then commander of the 49th Fighter Wing, Colonel Jeffrey Harrigan, an F-15 and F-22 pilot by trade, commented, "No weapon system can hold a stick to what you guys have developed here." The 4 jets formed up and headed into the desert and out of service. Fast forward 2 years to 2010, and a video appeared on the internet of an F-117 flying over the Nellis Ranges, revealing that at least some of the aircraft were still active. The sightings have continued, and in July 2016, a pair of the jets were spotted flying together in the pattern at Tonopah. Now we have shots of a single operation at low level. The F-117s are officially being kept in Type 1000 storage, indicating they are maintained in a status from which they could be recalled to active service should the need arise. Type 1000 aircraft are termed inviolate, meaning they have a high potential to return to flying status and no parts may be removed from them. The US Air Force states that the aircraft can be reactivated within 30 to 120 days, depending upon how long the particular aircraft has been in storage. It's unclear why a small amount of F-117s are being retained in flying status, but it's likely to be linked to some sort of operational testing on the ranges.
Yeah, that's pretty cool to see these airplanes out and about. I guess we would all imagine that they would keep, it's such a unique capability that they would keep something like this in storage for testing, and but it's really cool just to see that they are still out there.
It's a bit for me. It's a bit like the sort of the Concorde situation. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. There still isn't anything out there that looks or resembles that that aircraft. As I say, it's the same with Concorde, and I know there were lots of very good technical reasons why they were taken out of service, but usually it's something's taken out of service because it's been superseded by something else, and this seems to be a similar sort of situation, really. I mean, it's a very iconic looking aircraft, isn't it?
Yeah, I wish they'd done a Type 1000 storage on Concorde, because there was no need for them then, but it would be great to know that they could be brought back in one day if it needed to.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Richard Adams in the chat room is saying that surely they'll need to keep some pilots current as well.
Oh yeah.
I can't imagine being the one of 3 current Air Force pilots that still flies the F-117.
Wow. God, blimey. Well, it's presumably in the strictest of secrecy as well. You're not allowed to talk about it.
Yeah. It's 80s technology. It's unique, sure, but I don't know. I don't know if they would really try to keep it so much secret. Probably the tests are secret, but the fact that the airplane is out and about is.
Yes, I suppose we wouldn't be seeing it if it was a secret. I suppose it would be so high up you'd never sort of.
Yeah, if they didn't want you to see it, you wouldn't see it.
Yeah, fair point. Yeah.
And obviously, like Richard said in the chat room about keeping them current, obviously you can't keep people current without keeping them flying, so they must have to keep doing sorties just to keep people current, must you?
Is there anything?
They'd say, right, we're going to bring them all back in service. And I'd be like, well, no,
we've got no pilots. Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything out there currently in the military market, Armando, which, from a flight point of view, like a controls point of view, that is similar, or is it a very different beast?
The F-117 was developed in the mid-'80s, so I think the lessons learned from that program have probably bits and pieces have sort of translated into other programs, so I think you could probably spot some similarities in the F-22, the F-35, some of the unmanned. That was the F-117 was really revolutionary in the way they approached stealth, and even some of the infrared signature engine heat diffusing systems have probably now permeated some other systems, and then certainly the skin and the radar absorbent materials, that was really cutting edge back then, but that's probably the biggest thing that is probably still in use today.
There's a lot of chatting going on in the chat room about the F-22, about how good that is as a replacement.
Yeah, there's a lot of debate about that.
Yeah. What's your opinion on that?
It's interesting. I'm not a fighter guy, so I'm not too tremendously familiar. And I think once I get back to the States, that's sort of something I'm going to try to do with the military segment is seek out some of these folks that have firsthand experience in different aspects of the military, because my experience has been fairly limited. And I really hope to get sort of firsthand knowledge on some of these things that we see in the news quite a bit.
Yeah, indeed. Nev, we're going to interrupt, if we may, actually, with some breaking news.
Yes, we don't often have breaking news on this program, but we have at the moment. And there has been an evacuation of a Lauda aircraft on the runway at Stansted. Looks like the slides have been deployed and people are on the grass. Looks like everybody's got off okay, but don't know quite what the real story is, because it's only literally just happened in the last
like 4 minutes or so. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And they don't fly there, do they? So it's a diversion in there.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yes,
right.
I
Okay.
think so. Yes.
Am I correct?
Yeah.
I don't think they fly there as a route. So.
Yeah, I don't
actually know, to be honest with you. I'll have to have a look.
All right. Well, as I say, our wonderful listeners will no doubt know more about it by the time they hear about it. And the chat room, I dare say, will be going crazy at the moment looking it up. Yeah, but that is literally hot off the presses. So that's Lauda.
I'm looking for people to see if they've carried their luggage off, so I can criticise them for doing so. But, I don't think they.
There is definitely a bag. No, I'm sorry. I can see a bag over someone's shoulder.
Okay. Fair enough.
Right.
And is the person closest to the camera on the right, have they got their trolley case there?
Yes, they have. Yes, they have on the grass. Yes,
Ooh.
yeah. You see,
Imagine taking a trolley case down a slide.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about this every time an incident like this occurs, don't we? But it's like you do worry that, like, I suppose the cabin crew, they're in a difficult situation because they want to get everybody off the aircraft as quickly as possible. But at the same time, really, I suppose in that situation, it is their responsibility to ensure people don't do something stupid, like take their trolley case with them. I mean, is that the policy? I mean, really,
the problem is once they've got to the door with their trolley case, what are you going to do with it? If they don't take it down with them, it's going to be in the galley,
in the way,
the door. So once it's there,
it may as well go.
Just chuck it out so they can go and get it when it's down there. But
yeah. Yeah, I'm not so keen on this. It's just just get out of the aircraft. If there's something wrong, I mean, it must be something fairly major for them to have deployed the slides, presumably, going back to what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really see much from that picture. Is there any other pictures of it?
Yeah, no, we'll have we'll keep trawling at the moment.
It's extremely new what's happened there. So hardly any of the news. Well, there's nobody on the news side of things carrying it at the moment, I don't think. But,
no, indeed.
We will find out probably during the remainder of the show, I'd imagine. So,
flights inbound. Yes, there's something here. What's this? Air traffic. Aircraft aborted takeoff and emergency evacuation on runway. Where's that?
Maybe they do fly out of there then if it was a rejected takeoff.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see. Let me just. I'm just trying because there's a video here. I'm just trying to see if there's any clues in.
Yeah.
Go on.
No, I was going to say that video is not going to give a lot of clues.
No, okay, no, fair enough. It was worth a try. I was just sort of trying to find anything I could. That's the trouble is, it's like not used to doing things on the fly.
No,
literally.
There's nothing on the Stansted Airport Twitter feed at this exact moment, which is slightly surprising because you think that would be up there, obviously, because they will have closed the runway,
or unless it is literally that hot off the press at the moment. If you see what I mean, it's anyway. Yes, so we might just conclude that at the end of the show, perhaps. We might have some we'll see.
News by then. So yes,
okay.
But, there we are. So. Actually, Chris Griggs in the chat room has just sent us a tweet which says, if you're wondering about the incident at Stansted, a plane was stopped just before getting on the runway because of an engine failure. Everyone's okay. We're on a bus waiting to get back to the terminal. So, yes, there's some deployed slides and people off the...
Okay, but why would you deploy the engine unless it was a fire, perhaps as a result of the engine failure?
Well, that's it, and perhaps there was some other stuff going on there, so difficult to know. But we'll keep an eye on that story in the next 20 minutes or so, anyway. So, Anyway, well, that concludes the military section. Thanks, Armando, for doing a sterling job as always with that. And next, we're going to talk to Matt from the A320 podcast about the A320 podcast, which is why we've got him on the show. So this is a great project that you and Andy have put together. So tell us what's happening now with it. How far has it come since you originally started it?
Well, it's come a huge way. Many of your regular listeners will probably seen much of our journey. Basically started off at the very beginning when myself and Andy were studying for one of our recurrent sims, and I listened to a lot of podcasts, and I thought I wish there was a way I could use the time driving to and from work to learn more and study, and there's nothing out there. And I thought, who's got good technical knowledge and might be interested in doing something similar? So I chose Andy, and I approached him. We went for a coffee, and I gave him the idea, and he was up for it. So we started the podcast about 2 years ago, about 2.5 years ago, and we thought maybe we might get 20 or 30 people listening a month. but it would brush up our knowledge and keep us on our toes. So it'd be worth it. And we're getting about 20,000 downloads a month at the moment. So
good Lord,
it's gone mad, really.
Wow.
For something that's so niche as well, we're really pleased with it.
But this is the thing, though. I mean, I know from conversations we had, because the situation you're essentially finding yourself in, though, now is it really. I mean, I've referred to it before as what I call the Haynes manual of the A320, and that really is a good one. I mean, it is literally, it's genuinely. I know people who have recommended it to other people who are learning to fly an A320 as a way of helping you get your head round the manuals. Essentially, it's
absolutely. Yeah,
I mean, and that's the market you aim for.
Yeah, that's what it was designed exactly for that, for A320 pilots or A320 family pilots to prepare and study either for their initial training or for any of their recurrent training. And I mean, the feedback's been pretty good. So yeah, we're very pleased with the progress. We were a bit limited on what we could do over the air, because it's quite difficult, certainly with some of the systems and technical explanations, to do it just through a podcast. So that's where the next chapter in the progression came from, which was the A320 Lounge, which is the video ad that you put on in the break, which is where we, as you know very well, because you guys helped us with the production, goes to video. And obviously podcast completely free, but obviously it costs quite a bit to do the simulator and all that sort of stuff. So
but to sort of explain why the sort of like the thing. So obviously, because essentially it's quite a jump. So I mean it's still educational based, obviously, because the A320 podcast is about sort of educating people about things like single engine go arounds and that kind of thing. So I mean, where did the sort of the idea of doing it? Is it again the same sort of thing, like that? Not really anything out there that was sort of ticking the boxes, essentially.
There are similar things out there, but they're not. I don't know if they're necessarily written and produced by pilots, or they're older and not such good quality. A lot of them are just single angle and filmed from the back of the flight deck, so you don't get to see exactly which button presses they're doing and things like that. So we wanted to make something that was much cleaner and clearer for people to see, and we hope that that's what we've got. We think so, and the feedback from the course, because
it is out there now, isn't it? You have released it into the wide world. I mean, how are you finding it? What's the interest been?
Yeah, so we did a pre-launch. So we, about 3 weeks before our planned launch date, we said that the first 100 people to sign up will get 50% off. Okay. And we were sort of discussing what we're going to do if it gets to 3 weeks and we haven't sold the 100 the 100 courses, because it'll be a bit embarrassing. So we'll have to sort of pretend or do something to try and then go. Otherwise, we wouldn't be fair on the people that had taken advantage of the offer. But we sold out in 30 hours.
Wow.
So, so we were pretty impressed with that.
Yeah.
And it's gone really well. So we're once
it's a bit
again
like a Lionel Richie concert, isn't it? When you all the tickets sell out quickly. You know, not that I've been to a Lionel Richie.
Lionel Richie. God, wow. Okay.
Exactly.
We're aiming at a very unique demographic there, Nev.
Quite. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's the first and last time that the A320 technical A320 lounge will be linked to Lionel Richie.
Lionel Richie. Yeah,
exactly.
I think so.
Hello. Sorry.
That's it. Yeah.
It was a cheap shot.
With the A320 lounge side of things now, I mean, you've got the training app and all of that, and having seen that myself, I'm very impressed with how it looks and how it works so well on the mobile platform as well. And I know that you and Andy have done a lot of work to make that look really nice, actually. So I was really impressed with that.
Yeah, we're quite pleased with the fact that you can use the app as well, because then it's you can use it offline as well. So you can, if you're going on a trip abroad or something, you don't want to use your data, then obviously you can load all the lessons onto your device, and then you can watch them en route, or if you're positioning, you can look at them in the flight. So yeah, we're quite pleased with all that, and we've got quite a few other things in the pipeline. So yes, like I say, it's gone really well. I'm not sure how well it would work with other aircraft types. The Airbus manuals are so badly written, right? It's very easy to get confused. Sometimes, people often say you go to study something and you come away knowing less than when you studied, because it actually confuses you and causes doubt.
Yeah, I have a similar experience with Cisco routers, Nev. I don't know about you. Is it every time you pick up a Cisco, I sit there and read through it all, and I end up knowing less about networking than when I sat down to read it. It's the same sort of thing.
So to give you an idea of how much information there is for the average airline pilot, or probably of any aircraft to know, is that we have the Airbus's manual, which would be like the manual for your car that you get when you come through. We then have several manuals that the airline produces, which is how they want you to operate the aircraft with all our standard operating procedures. Plus we have multiple other regulatory manuals as well. But just the Airbus one, which would be the equivalent of what you get in a car pack, is I think it's about 7,500 pages. So it's quite a big document. And it's written in French by a French engineer and then translated into English by a French engineer. So the loss in translation written by an engineer. So engineers think it's great because they understand, but to a pilot, it's not necessarily the best language we would use. So essentially what we try to do is, through our podcast and through the online courses, is to effectively translate the FCOM into pilot language, bite-sized pieces, and that's what we've been doing. And we're on episode 83, I think, now. So nowhere near what you guys are up to, but
but the difference between what we produce and what you produce is yours is actually useful.
The problem is we have to do a lot of fact checking on ours, because everything, you can't make any errors because anyone would jump on you straight away. And obviously people are using this to go and be tested.
Yes, of course.
We obviously wouldn't want the guilt of giving someone the wrong information, putting that in an interview, and then doing that. So we're very fastidious about making sure everything's right.
Well, I mean, it's certainly been a very fascinating project that, as I say, myself and Nev have had a sort of a little bit of an insight into. I mean, it's a genuinely a really interesting product.
Yes, right. How do you think that?
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that I've really enjoyed over the past couple of years about getting into the podcast community, really, as a listener, is how every podcast has its own sort of niche in the market. And I know when you guys came along, I started listening. I hope this doesn't offend anybody else, but when I have time to pay attention and I want to learn something, I actually listen to the A320 podcast. You know.
What are you trying to say, Armando?
You know, a lot of us are trying to be entertaining. We purposely trying to not get too technical.
Yeah, absolutely.
And and there are times where I'll read an article or I'll read an incident report or something, and they'll mention a system, and I'm very much not familiar with the Airbus products. So usually one of my first places to go to is to the A320 Podcast website, and then see if you guys have done an episode on that. And it's really interesting.
Yeah, because we've got a search function on our website, so which I'm sure you've used. Then you can just search and it'll find any keywords in any of the titles, so you don't have to even scroll through them all. But,
that's it.
Yeah,
good job, guys.
I'm actually glad that you're only doing it every fortnight now, because when you were doing it weekly, I really couldn't keep up with it, and it must have been quite a challenge for both of you guys, with obviously different rostering and this sort of stuff, to find the time to produce it.
Well, that's the problem, because myself and Andy, our airline, we have like groups of which roster group you're in, and me and Andy are in exact opposite roster groups. So when Andy's on days off, I'm always working, and vice versa. So it's just so difficult for us to get stuff together. So we try and record them all live as such where we're both on Skype, but sometimes we have to record them separately. So I'll record all of my lines and he'll record all of his, and then we merge it together.
Very good.
So, yeah. And also we wanted the quality to remain high, and we felt that trying to get one out every week would mean that we'd probably have to try and dilute the quality a bit and make them less specific or less detailed, which we didn't want to do. So we thought, rather than compromise on quality, we'll compromise on the quantity.
Yes,
a sensible decision, I think, to be fair.
Yeah.
And so what's next for your projects, Matt? What have you got in the pipeline for this year?
Well, more courses really. So the first one was about acing your LPC OPC, which is our 6 monthly check, or if you're new on the type, it's your initial exam after you've done your type rating course. And there's pretty regulated schedule for what you're going to do on that, so it's pretty much prescribed. So we've just done a course on all of those prescribed items that you'll get on that test, so which is your engine failure on takeoff, and then single engine approach, single engine go around. So that's our first course, and then we're now going to move on to doing all other different subjects on different failures. So they're all failure scenarios. And the great thing is, which is not something we considered when we first started out, because the aim was always to do online courses eventually. But what we didn't realize was we would gather it by doing the podcast for 2 years first. We'd gather a huge amount of data. And because we can look at which episodes listen to the most, our listeners have already told us without writing a single word which subjects they want us to do
a courses on, essentially.
Because you can look really clearly at what is the most popular episode and think, well, that's the one that people are obviously either most worried about getting in the sim or in real life, and the one that they feel like they're lacking on. So it's great having that data, which is sort of a consequence we hadn't thought about. So that's quite handy.
Yeah, I bet it gives you a bit of an insider edge, isn't it? Because that's the beauty about it. Because it is literally you literally just look at your download figures and you think, okay, that's where, let's start with those modules first, and then you can expand on that as and when you go.
Tony's asked, what part of the A320 flight system do people most have trouble learning? Learning in the first place is probably the autopilot, so any of the auto flight systems, so how it interacts with the different modes, and also the flight control laws, which is very specific to the fly-by-wire system. So for example, on a fly-by-wire system, what you do to the control stick is not exactly what the flight controls on the wings or the elevator will do. So if you, pitch up, in a normal aeroplane, you would be telling the tail and the elevator how much to move. Whereas on a fly-by-wire, we're demanding a G-force effectively. So you're in pitch. We don't actually ask for a pitch. We just ask for a load factor, and the computer works out how much elevator to do for that. And the same with roll. We demand a roll rate rather than how much the ailerons move. So there's lots of figures in that you need to know. So for example, if we do full side stick, that's 15 degrees per second roll rate. So it doesn't matter what speed you're doing, it will still give you that roll rate. Even if you're very slow in a normal aircraft, it would be more sluggish, and at high speed it'd be more responsive. On a fly-by-wire aircraft, it will be identical at any speed. So you always have this consistent approach.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So there's all that sort of thing. So especially people that have come from another aircraft type. So if they've come from, say, a 737, it's quite hard to get your head around the philosophy of the Airbus because it's so alien to a conventional aircraft. Yeah.
I know Richard Adams in the chat room is asking exactly about that. Do you do much sim practice using alternate laws?
Yeah, quite a lot. So alternate law is whenever you lose two systems of one or two parts of one system. So generally you have 3 of everything. If you lose 1, you normally still stay in the normal law. If you lose 2 of a system, that's when you're going to an alternate law, which is where you lose either most or sometimes all of your protections, depending on when there's a failure. So for example, like going back to when we talked about that Gibraltar incident, so our maximum angle of bank we can get in normal law is 67 degrees. Yeah, so even if you wanted to roll further than that, it won't go any further. Whereas in normal law, in alternate law, then you could do a barrel roll effectively. You're just a conventional aircraft.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's certainly when the Airbus comes up in any conversation. That's usually where I get lost, is when you guys start talking about the laws and alternate laws and direct laws and things like that.
Yeah, so we have normal law, alternate law, and direct law. Yeah.
Indeed.
Very good. Well, that's
sorry. I should explain. We're a little bit distracted because obviously, while we've been doing this, we've been trying to find out as much information as we can about this this loud emotion thing.
Well, firstly, we've got to thank Matt for telling us all about how you're doing with the A320 podcast and the projects you've got coming up this year. That's absolutely fascinating. So once again, thank you very much. And I don't know whether you can just stick with us for a few minutes whilst we tell you about the latest information that we've got from the Aviation Herald, which is normally the go-to place for a proper aviation reporting, I have to say. And it says that a loud emotion Airbus A320-200 registration Oscar Echo sorry, I can't read that. Oscar Echo LOA performing flight Oscar Echo 327 from London Stansted to Vienna was accelerated for takeoff from Stansted's runway 22 when the crew rejected the takeoff very early into takeoff run after a loud bang was heard. The aircraft stopped about 270 meters down the runway. An emergency evacuation via the slides was performed, and a passenger reported that there was a huge bang due to an engine failure, the CFM56, and the aircraft skidded to a stop and they evacuated via the slides. So it sounds like it's quite a low speed abort here. Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if it's a loud bang, that's generally associated with an engine, isn't it? I can't think of much else that would cause a loud bang and loud enough for them to reject. And for them to evacuate, you would assume that it was on fire, I guess, or they had fire indications. So
yes. Yeah. But looks like everybody's off okay, and obviously there'll be some investigation from the AIB at some point. But meanwhile, the runway is still. There you go. You see, there's always a something at the end of the light at the end of the tunnel somewhere. But looks like everybody's got off safely. That's the main
so I
thing.
presume the runway and that is all.
Does Lauda have those fold-down cup holder things?
Yeah, I can see this is going to be a bit of an obsession
we
for
need
you.
to investigate.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. But I mean, presumably, just going back to the story, presumably, I mean, the runway and everything will obviously be closed for the foreseeable. Presumably, while this is, I mean, or would they just move it some? I mean, I'm not sure.
Keep it there, I would have thought.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean,
Flight Radar 24, and it's just sitting on the runway right now still. So I'm sure they clean up the slides and then do a FOD check. And
yeah, it's not likely to be.
Just going back to the incident itself. Obviously, you get different reports. So obviously, the Aviation Herald is the place to go for this kind of thing. But inevitably, it's made its way into the other media as well. And on the BBC website, it says another traveller, Yana, told how the flight attendants were panicked and pretty much caused chaos themselves.
Right.
This often comes up because their procedure is to absolutely scream at the passengers. So it sounds pretty chaotic when you hear it, even when you see them doing it in training. But, they've got one target, and that is to get everyone off within, I think it's a minute and a half, isn't it, to get everybody off?
Yes, 90 seconds, isn't it? Yes, that's right.
So
and she says we had to basically jump from the plane onto the slide down this 10-meter drop. Yes, good. I'm glad you did,
because that's exactly what you had to do. Well done. I'm
Yeah,
glad you
well done you.
Take the box. Well done you.
I bet she's the one that brought her trolley case with her.
Yes, I bet she is.
Yes.
Okay. Anyway, so there will be more details on that, I'm sure, next week. But as I say, breaking news, very, very unusual that obviously we have breaking news while we're in the show. Actually, before we wrap up, which we do need to start doing, I'm afraid, boys and girls, it has to be said, Armando, that you have a very proud wife on your hands here. Look, there we are. She's just posted this on Facebook a little while ago. Look, busy watching her hubby on the telly. Oh, look at that. Absolutely. Yeah, I read the Facebook post that went with it. Carlos has just sort of sent it. He's still on his deathbed, I'm pleased to say. Not pleased to say. That was terrible. I didn't mean that at all. But yeah, he just sent me a thing from that. It's a bit smushy. It's quite. I felt quite nauseous after I read it, actually, if I'm honest. Must be nice. Must be nice to have someone who still loves you, eh, Nev?
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah. No,
there we are.
Yeah.
Somebody tell me what that's like one day, eh? Right, it is time to bring episode number 258 to a close. Matt, thank you so very much for bearing with us. I know you've had your fair share of technical challenges today as well, and it's been great to have you on as always. Let's not leave it so long next time, eh?
Yes, exactly. Well, I was saying to Nev the other day, I'd like to come on more regularly.
Yeah, absolutely. Really always welcome, mate. Always welcome. Yeah, definitely. Well, we'll pass back to you, Nev. It's time to wrap up.
It is indeed, and just like to thank everybody in the chat room for participating today. So we had a bit of a late start, bit of some technical weirdness going on with the old router and internet, but we'd just like to thank Armando as well for his massive contribution to the military side of things. That really has made things much better for us. So
yes.
Thank you, Armando.
So nice to have somebody who knows what he's talking about. It's brilliant.
And on social media, Matt, where can they find us?
So on social media, we're at A320 Podcast on Twitter and Facebook, and we are at A320 Lounge on Instagram. Websites, a320podcast.com, and if you want to have a look at our online courses, then that's a320lounge.com.
And for Plain Talking UK, if you're obviously listening, it's youtube.com/Plain Talking UK, and you'll find our channel. We're live every Friday usually. That does change sometimes, so the best way to find out when we're going live is to follow our social media. You'll find us on Facebook at Plain Talking UK. On our Twitter handle is at Plain Talking UK. Instagram, basically just search any social media platform for Plain Talking UK, and you'll probably find us. T-shirts are available to buy if you are interested. That is www.plaintalkinguk.com, and then take yourself to the shop and you can get some very good quality Fruit of the Loom T-shirts there with the logo embroidered on the front and then the screen print on the back.
Yes, excellent stuff. Do you know, I was just waiting for Carlos to interrupt then, but
no,
of course, as we know, he's unavailable.
Yes, bless him. Yes. Get well soon, please, Carlos. It's not the same without you, mate. Come on, get well soon.
I know. I'm sure it'll be better soon, but anyway, back for next week. But in the meantime, thanks very much to everybody for taking part, and take care. Bye for now.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Yeah.